Welcome to Echo, the podcast where we unpack the trends and technologies shaping our world. I'm Alex.
And I'm Ben. In a world where you can get almost anything delivered to your door in a day, we've become incredibly detached from the things we own. Where did they come from? What are they made of? And where do they go when we're done with them?
Exactly. We live in what many call a black box economy. We see a product on a shelf or a website, we buy it, we use it, and it disappears into a bin. But what if that black box could be cracked wide open?
That's the promise of what we're talking about today, the Digital Product Passport, or DPP. It's a concept that has seen a massive
All right, Ben, let's start with the basics. If I'm hearing digital product passport for the first time, what does that actually mean?
Think of it like a birth certificate, a CV, and a medical record all rolled into one for every single product you buy. The idea is that from the moment a product is conceived, from the raw materials harvested to create it, it gets a unique digital identity. This identity is then updated at every step of its journey.
So we're talking about a digital file, something I can access on my phone.
Precisely. It would likely be linked via a QR code, an NFC chip, or some other tag on the product itself. You scan it with your phone, and voila, you get the product's entire life story.
And what kind of information would be in this story?
This is the core of it. For a t-shirt, for example, the passport could tell you where the cotton was grown, whether it was organic, how much water was used, the location of the factory where it was stitched, and even the carbon footprint of its journey to the store. But it doesn't stop there.
Go on.
It also contains information for the afterlife of the product. The passport would include details on the materials used, making it easier to recycle. It would have instructions on how to repair it, maybe even listing compatible spare parts. It's designed to keep products and their materials in use for as long as possible.
Okay, so it's a cradle-to-grave or really cradle-to-cradle logbook, but this sounds incredibly ambitious. The amount of data required to track every component of, say, a smartphone must be astronomical. Is the technology even there yet?
It is, and that's why this is happening now. A few key technologies have converged. You have the Internet of Things, IoT sensors that can track products through supply chains. You have cloud computing to store the massive amounts of data.
Okay, so we have regulators, primarily in the EU, driving this change, but who else are the key players here? What do the brands and manufacturers themselves think about this? I can imagine a lot of them aren't thrilled about having their entire operation exposed.
You're right, there's definitely a spectrum of reactions. On one end, you have forward-thinking brands who see this as a massive opportunity. Companies that have genuinely invested in sustainable and ethical practices can now prove it. Think of a brand like Patagonia, which has built its identity on transparency. For them, the DPP is a powerful tool to validate their claims and build even stronger customer loyalty.
It becomes a marketing advantage. Instead of just saying we're green, they can say scan here and see for yourself.
Exactly. It separates the green doers from the green washers. But for a huge portion of the industry, particularly in fast fashion or complex electronics, where supply chains are incredibly convoluted and often opaque, this is a nightmare.
Why a nightmare? Is it because they have something to hide, or is it just the sheer logistical challenge of it all?
It's both. Let's be frank. Some supply chains rely on practices that companies would rather keep quiet. Whether it's poor labor conditions, environmentally damaging processes, or sourcing from conflict zones, the DPP threatens to bring all of that into the light.
So that's the something to hide part.
Yes, but even for well-intentioned companies, the logistical hurdle is immense. Think about a single laptop. It has components from dozens, if not hundreds, of suppliers all over the world. The processor from one company, the screen from another, the battery, the casing. Gathering standardized, verifiable data from every single one of those suppliers is a colossal task. It requires a complete overhaul of supply chain management.
It sounds expensive. Is this going to drive up the cost of products for consumers?
That's the million-dollar question. Initially, almost certainly, companies will have to invest in new software, systems, and personnel to manage this data. Those costs will likely be passed on to us. However, the long-term argument is that it could actually save us money.
How so?
By enabling a true circular economy. Right now, when your phone's battery dies or the screen crashes,
So far, we've talked a lot about the EU. But what about the rest of the world? Is this just a European bubble, or will it have a global ripple effect?
It's destined to be global. This is the Brussels effect in action. Because the EU is such a massive, wealthy market, any company that wants to sell products there, whether they're based in the US, China, or anywhere else, will have to comply with its rules. They have to create these digital product passports for their EU-bound goods.
And once you've done the work to create a transparent supply chain for one market, it's much easier to apply it to all your markets.
Exactly. It becomes the de facto global standard. Why would a multinational company maintain two separate supply chain systems, one transparent for the EU and one opaque for everyone else? It's inefficient. So EU regulation effectively forces global industries to level up. We saw the same thing happen with data privacy and GDPR.
That's a great point. So looking forward, what does a world with widespread DPPs look like in, say, 10 years? Paint me a picture.
In 10 years, I think scanning a product before you buy it could be as normal as checking the price tag. Your shopping experience, both online and in store, would be fundamentally different. You might see sustainability or repairability scores displayed prominently next to products.
So it changes our purchasing decisions. What about after we own the product?
After you own it, the product's passport becomes a living document in your personal digital locker. If your washing machine breaks down, you don't call a random repair person. You scan the passport, which might run a diagnostic, identify the broken part, show you a video on how to fix it, and provide a link to order the exact spare part you need.
So, to bring it all together, the digital product passport is far more than just a fancy QR code. It represents a fundamental shift towards a transparent, accountable, and circular economy.
It's a tool designed to tackle greenwashing head-on, giving real power to consumers, recyclers, and regulators. It forces manufacturers to take responsibility for a product's entire life cycle, from cradle to grave and back to cradle again.
But it's not a silver bullet. The path ahead is filled with challenges. The immense logistical task of implementation, the risk of driving up costs, the need to protect data privacy, and ensuring small businesses aren't left behind.
The ambition is huge.
That's all the time we have for this episode of The Zeitgeist. Join us next time as we continue to explore the ideas shaping our future.
Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and feel free to leave us a review. It helps us understand what topics you want to hear more about. Thanks for listening.